everyone, it's Emma, and today I'm going to talk about Linger by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the second book in the Wolves of Mercy Falls trilogy, or quadrilogy. It's 3 books and then there's a companion novel. Since this is the second book, the majority of this review is going to be full of little spoilery details. If you want to know more about the series, I did make a full spoiler-free review for the first book called Shiver, and I will link it down below. I would just give a really quick summary of the basic gist of these books. They take place in Minnesota, which is really fun for me because I've been to Minnesota like multiple times. So I know what the atmosphere is. It's always fun to read books that take place in places that you know. These books are about werewolves, basically. There's this town called Mercy Falls, and there's this pack of wolves. The whole town knows about these wolves, but what they don't know is that in the summer, they live as humans, and in the winter, they live as wolves. So they're not werewolves in like the hybrid turn with the moon type of werewolf, which I like much better. I never really thought I would like a werewolf book, but these are really fun and original. Our main character, Grace, was attacked by the wolves when she was a kid, but she never changed like she should have, and yet she has this draw towards the wolves and like this feeling like she doesn't quite belong. One of the wolves saved her when she was a child, and it's like a love story. But I enjoyed the second book just as much as the first one. It didn't let me down. It didn't like blow me away. It wasn't on an entire new level from the first one, but it was very solid and continued on the writing style that I loved, and there were some things that I loved even more. I'll talk about that more in my wrap-up. So if you have not read Linger and you do not want to be spoiled, you should leave now so that you're not spoiled, or if you're never going to read it and you don't care, I guess you can stay. I'm going to put it down now. So I put the book down, so if you do not want to be spoiled, that is your cue to leave. I was a little bit wary because I knew that there were more POVs added with new characters, and I'm always wary of multiple POV books. I just think it's super rare that they're done in a way that I really enjoy. I really enjoyed this one. I didn't get too confused with when it would switch, I guess because the chapters were short and their personalities are so distinct. Like, the things that Isabel said were not the stuff that Grace would say. It's pretty easy to discern, which is like my number one thing that I don't like most of the time with multiple POV books, is just that it gets confusing if the voice isn't distinct enough. I also just really liked the new characters. Isabel wasn't a new character, she was in the first book, but I don't feel like we got to know her very well until this one, and seeing her and the way that she dealt with her brother's death and all of the guilt and self-punishment that she has with that, and then Cole and all of Cole's issues, and seeing them interact was really interesting. The things that they struggled with kind of like played with each other, and I thought that was super interesting. I love the way that Maggie writes people. It's just so realistic. Cole was a really great dysfunctional character. He was a total jerk in the beginning, so I didn't love him right away or really ever, but I really liked his development throughout the book, and by the end I was pretty fond of him. I think Cole's point of view might have actually been my favorite. Cole and Grace's point of views are my favorite. I liked that we kind of knew he was famous right from the beginning. We didn't know quite the extent, but we knew he was famous. And then, like, watching the other characters figure it out. By the end, he had made a lot of progress, and him seeing his friend Victor die was so sad. That part really got me. I don't think I cried, but I was choked up. It was sad because of all the, like, regret that he's going to have. Grace and Sam's relationship was not my favorite in this book. It wasn't really their relationship per se, but the whole thing with Grace's parents, I just did not like. It was so frustrating. I hate those characters, those parental characters that like are completely unreasonable and are just so stern in their way. Not that I think it's bad writing, it's just so frustrating to read. It did feel a little bit like it came out of nowhere, like for most of Grace's life they've been totally uninvolved, and then all of a sudden they're being super freakishly controlling. They don't know anything about Sam, but they were judging him very harshly. So I don't really know what it was that triggered all that. I didn't like that part. I'm glad it's probably over. I also didn't like Isabel having a crush on Sam. That made me so uncomfortable. Like, it just made me really nervous because Isabel was in such a place that she could have gone so self-destructive, and I didn't want her to like ruin her friendship with Grace, even though I feel like Grace would have taken it well however it went down, but I'm glad that it didn't become this huge like blow up thing. I hope it doesn't in the next book. It's not really Maggie Stiefvater's style, but it made it a little bit harder for me to like Isabel. It's not that I didn't like it, I didn't like the way she was going about everything. Like at the end when she kind of gave them all a wake up call, I technically agreed with her that they needed to be more proactive, but the way she went about it, I didn't enjoy very much. I wasn't mad at Isabel because she's grieving the death of her brother, so like almost everything is understandable. It was just frustrating to read, like the reading experience. I was a little mad in this one. It wasn't like super peaceful, calm, happy book, which is totally fine with me. One aspect that I really, really liked was Cole being a genius and like him experimenting and being curious about how it actually works for the wolves, because I was curious too. Left it all unclear in the first book so that she could explore that in this one. But it was just super interesting to me how it wasn't actually the cold, but your body reacting to the cold that made them change. Found out the reason that Sam had so many less years to change because he kept himself from changing. I always really like that it's usually trilogies. The second book is like the one where the author explores all the stuff that you took for granted the first book, like, oh, the wolves just change with the cold, that's how it is. And then in the second book, you're like, oh no, that's not how it is. Another thing I really, really liked in this one was Sam's lyrics. Technically, the first one did that, had Sam's lyrics interspersed throughout, but for some reason, I noticed it more in the second book. Maybe like the lyrics spoke to me more, or maybe she did it more often. I don't know. I really liked that part. Like, they were so poetic and beautiful. Obviously, the ending I saw coming because she tells you right at the beginning what's going to happen, and it's no fair. I love those books, but I also hate them because it's so mean. They tell you right at the beginning, and then you hope the whole book that they're wrong, or you're wrong, or they're tricking you. So when Grace actually became a wolf and like her and Sam got split up, I was so sad, even though they told us right at the beginning what was happening, and like you knew it the whole time from the whole tone and everything. It took so much to get them together in the first book and to get Sam cured, even though it's not a cure. So I have no idea what's going to happen in the next one, because at the end of this one, it was almost summer, right? It shouldn't be that long before Grace is a human again. She didn't tell us what exactly Sam told Grace's parents. He just walked into the hospital covered in her blood and said, I tried to stop her. So now I'm like, what did he tell her parents? Is everyone going to think that Grace is dead and then she's going to be a human again and have to hide? I don't know. I really have no idea how this last book is going to go. I haven't heard anything about the ending, whether it's sad or bittersweet. Because these books are older, I'm like really going blind here, which I like. Sometimes it's really fun to not know anything about how it ends. Like, I'm hoping for a happy ending and then like a flash forward 10 years thing, but at this point I have no idea how it could end happily in like a happily ever after type ending. I just can't even imagine it. Overall, I'm really enjoying this series. I'm having a lot of fun reading the books. Really glad that I picked them up because there's so many mixed opinions about these books, and I really haven't heard a lot of positive things about them. I didn't read them for so long, and now I'm really happy that I'm reading them. It's not going to be my favorite series ever, but it's been really nice to read, and I just love Maggie Stiefvater's writing style. That's pretty much all I have to say about Linger. I don't think there was anything else that I wanted to talk about. I have heard, since I started talking about this on BookTube, from lots of people who love this series. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel and Miss Emma reads a lot on all of my social media, which I will link down in the description box. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon with a new video.